Alright, I'm just gonna cut to the chase. If you already saw my Bendy and the Ink Machine video, then you already know that I love Cuphead, and your opinions might vary on the game just because of how difficult it can be. Putting that aside though, the game can still be appreciated for perfectly capturing the hand-drawn rubber hose style from the 1930s, with just making the game look fantastic, especially with its amazing soundtrack. So of course, an animated series based on the game would be perfect. And in 2019, Netflix would officially announce that they would be producing the Cuphead show. When I first heard this announcement, this was a dream come true for me, because this was before they released the Delicious Last Course, which was still in development around this time. So knowing that there would be a show based on Cuphead was just awesome. But then in February of 2022, the Cuphead show would finally premiere its first season on Netflix, and it would end its 3-season run with a total of 36 episodes in November of 2022. That was 4 years ago, and I think that now would be a great time to look back on the show and give my overall thoughts on it, especially since there was a new Cuphead game announced not too long ago. So I think now would be a great time to just talk about the show. Now, if you already played Cuphead and seen the cutscenes from the video game, then you can kind of get an idea as to what the show is about. So it's about these two Cup brothers named Cuphead and Mugman who live with their grandfather, Elder Kettle, and they go on wild misadventures, whether that would be running away from the devil, dealing with Miss Chalice, or interacting with one of the various bosses from the game. With that being said, how are Cuphead and Mugman in the show? Well, Cuphead is the troublemaker, while Mugman is the one who is more self-aware and scared, but also potentially a psychopath. Now, I understand why they chose these characteristics, because the show is aiming for a slapstick kind of humor, but when viewing the cutscenes in the Cuphead game, you don't really know all that much about Cuphead or Mugman as characters, which I mean makes sense because it's a video game. So I understand why Cuphead and Mugman act like this in the show, and I think it works pretty well when it comes to the overall humor this show has. In terms of stories in the show, there's a main one where the devil is desperate to get Cuphead's soul because he lost at one of those ball pit games at the carnival, and then Cuphead and Mugman are framed for being cookie burglars, so they're sent to prison, but they quickly escape anyways. In terms of stories, it's mostly just centered around Cuphead and Mugman, sometimes Miss Chalice, just going off on wild adventures and just doing whatever they want, pretty much. So yeah, some of the episodes are pretty random, but that's okay. That's perfectly fine with me. If they went with the story of the actual game, I think the episodes would have been very repetitive either way. So I'm perfectly fine with the show just doing whatever it wants. But the show is still very faithful to the game. Also, the voice acting in the show is extremely good. Like, I genuinely can't imagine anybody else but this cast voicing these characters. And the show's animation is fantastic. Of course, you know, they didn't go with the whole hand-drawn animation like the game. They went all digital. But I think the animation perfectly captures the golden era of rubber hose cartoons extremely well. I love how expressive all the characters are. I know that Cuphead and Mugman get like a little bit of a redesign, with like eyebrows and more of an expressive faces, but honestly I think it works well for the show. Other characters also get different redesigns when it comes to different coloring, like Elder Kettle or the devil, but like I said, I think the animation is fantastic. With all that being said, what are my overall thoughts on the show? Personally, I think it's amazing. It doesn't matter if you have played the game or not. I think anyone can enjoy the Cuphead show for what it provides. And I just think it's a really funny show. It's extremely funny. The animation is beautiful. The characters are fun to watch. There's a lot to enjoy about the Cuphead show. Honestly, it's hard for me to really find anything wrong with the show. I mean, sure, some of the episodes might be generic when it comes to their stories, but the show is very much trying to capture the classic feeling of watching an old cartoon from the 1930s with its simple storytelling and wild antics with its characters, and I think it perfectly does that really well. So those are my thoughts on the Cuphead show, and I would highly recommend watching it, especially if you haven't seen it yet. And if you have, let me know what you thought about it. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.